How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. I'm Sam Holcman. Thanks for joining me. And the topic today is the concept of buyer's remorse. And of course, specifically on this particular broadcast, it will be what can you do when an enterprise architecture or business architecture certification isn't great for you? We've all had buyer's remorse about something. And what is fascinating to me, and I believe I'm trying not to do this, is when something isn't to my liking, I tell people, hey, I went on this vacation to this particular location, and I didn't enjoy it. But what we find as wonderful human beings as we are, we tend to hide that truth. Oh, yeah, you got to go there. It was the greatest place in the world. And that's because of buyer's remorse. You don't want to admit that you possibly made a wrong decision. Well, guess what? With enterprise architecture and business architecture certification, this is a big thing. Nobody wants to admit that what they went to didn't do the job for them. Well, maybe you don't want to admit it, but maybe you need to do something about it. So what we have to understand is enterprise architecture and business architecture certifications are often seen as strategic moves. And what it's trying to do is to elevate the professional credibility of yourself and the profession, further organizational maturity, and equip leaders with frameworks and methodologies to drive business optimization and transformation. But unfortunately, most certifications don't live up to these expectations. Whether it's course material that's too academic, the delivery is lackluster, the instructor actually has never done enterprise or business architecture, is reading off of a series of slides, or the end result is no more than a test certificate with little, if any, real-world application. Many professionals then ask the following question: was it worth it? If your certification journey leads to regret rather than results, don't panic. Just admit it, at least to yourself. There are smart ways to pivot, recoup value, and avoid repeating this mistake later. And, if I can use the phrase, sort of warn others that probably this wasn't a good idea. Let's look at recognizing certification buyer's remorse in the first place. Buyer's remorse in this case is more than disappointment over a test or a dense textbook. It often stems from a more fundamental realization. You are no closer to building an actual business architecture or enterprise architecture than before you started. This is a critical distinction. A good certification should not stop at passing an exam or memorizing an abstract framework. It should empower you to apply that knowledge in designing real architectures, leading strategic initiatives, and fostering enterprise-wide alignment. When that doesn't happen, your regret is justified, especially if time, money, and executive support is on the line. Study the enrollment contract or agreement, what you're signed up for, and move quickly. If you are dissatisfied with your certification experience, review your enrollment agreement or provider policy, whatever you were given, as soon as possible. Look if you can get a refund. Your objectives weren't met. Or transfer options. Many certification programs include trial access, refund window, or option to defer further expenses. Unfortunately, you may have to engage internal legal or human resources, particularly when employers' funds are used. Ensure any course cancellation or renegotiation aligns with your policy expectations or the company's policy expectations. You need to document gaps in value. Keep notes on how the program failed to deliver for you, whether in terms of outdated content, lack of practical application. Let me repeat, lack of practical application. How do you do this? Or minimal post-certification support. This strengthens your case if you need to escalate this to your provider. And, ladies and gentlemen, the certification should build more than bragging rights. The core measure of value in an EA or BA certification should be whether it actually equips you to build, assess, and evolve an enterprise architecture or business architecture in the real world. Unfortunately, some certification focus primarily on rote learning, theoretical models, or passing a disconnected multiple choice exam. Without labs, case studies, and implementation exercises, or peer collaboration, these programs fall short of preparing learners to translate what they've learned in the classroom into actionable architecture deliverables. And those deliverables include architecture models, implementation models, move-ahead initiatives or developed capabilities, strategic blueprints, or roadmaps. If your case gave you an arcane set of acronyms but no competence in real architecture modeling, development, or techniques, your disappointment is fully justified. Yes, buyer's remorse, but you have a reason for it. What else can you do? Renegotiate with the group that gave you this course, or this examination, or this certification. If existing certification or exiting the certification activity isn't feasible, explore alternatives. Look for alternative programs. Some providers offer different tracks or specializations under the same umbrella. Find one that fits your role or business needs. Ask for support. Request coaching, additional practice, additional practical workshops, or access to communities of practice that they may have. Sometimes added guidance can help make the certification more actionable. Ask for partial refunds or rescheduling. Don't be shy. If you feel the course under-delivered, cite specific gaps, request a credit, or a discount on fees paid. Repurpose your investment. If you're unable to cancel or renegotiate your certification, find creative ways to reclaim some type of value. Run internal workshops. Share new technologies, frameworks, or tools with colleagues, even if the certification wasn't perfect. And you may have to supplement that, of course. Conduct internal projects. Use some of the certification concepts if there are some that you can use, and I do believe all of them have some benefit, as starting points for road mapping or realignment efforts in your team. Engage in knowledge transfer or donate the course. If you can't advance further in the program, see if the remaining resource can be transferred to another team member or donated to the community somewhere. The key thing, ladies and gentlemen, is to avoid repeated mistakes. Avoid repeated mistakes. Prioritize practical skill development is what you're looking for. Now, going forward, focus on certifications that explicitly prioritize practical architecture development. Confirm the outcomes. Before registering, ensure the certification clearly states it will enable you to build or improve a business or enterprise architecture. Not just explain what architecture is. It sounds so basic. But it's up to you to make sure that those outcomes are known to the instructor or certification body or whatever you're doing. Ask questions. Look for hands-on labs, case studies, peer reviews, or tools embedded in the curriculum. insist on deliverables. The best certification guides the learner to create tangible outputs, including architecture models, implementation models, strategic roadmap, and are consumable by stakeholders. And emphasize that you are going to take and bring these back to organizations, human beings that need to use this on a day in and day out basis. What are the key takeaways that I'm trying to bring to you? Buyer's remorse in architecture certification is, unfortunately at this point, very common, and it's understandable. The program fails to deliver an actionable value. A successful business architecture or enterprise architecture certification should empower you to build architectures, not just pass exams or add acronyms after your name. If you find yourself stuck in a program that's too long on theory and exam-based activities and short on valuable application, move quickly. Explore calculations, renegotiations, and repurposing options. And next time, select programs backed by real-world frameworks, implementation support, and a clear promise to deliver measurable business impact in your architecture capability. In architecture, delivery is everything. A certification that doesn't get you there is just another costly detour.
No travel? No problem. The Enterprise Architecture Center of Excellence and Business Architecture Center of Excellence are experts in offering distance learning enterprise architecture and business architecture certification workshops throughout the year. Your experience mirrors our face-to-face workshops and are not just remote broadcasts. You will collaborate in teams across the world, just as though you were across the table. For dates and registration, visit EACOE.org and BACOE.org.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.